Welcome to Zisodel TV. Kindly subscribe, share, and like for latest updates and news. Welcome to Zisodel TV,
of course,
where you can get
it's in health
news
that we see the most dramatic gaps, but also in education. If you look across the country, a mother's chance of surviving childbirth or the chance for a child growing up healthy varies quite dramatically. In some Nigerian states, women giving birth have great assistance. If they have challenges, they can get high quality care. But in many other states, over 90% of the women deliver at home, and if there's challenges, they don't have access to the life-saving care. And so these inequities, the inequities of location, the inequities of gender, these are opportunities to really understand what those are and change them. Education, the women's education varies a lot. In fact, there are states where the majority of women don't have great education. So this is an imperative to take these advances, whether it's digital or AI or anything we're doing, and apply these in health and education. And that's where our foundation has had an opportunity to work with great partners here. And certainly up to the pandemic, we were making great progress, and now we see that progress can resume. And so, AI is going to be used for things like designing malaria drugs. Malaria is a great example where there's not a great market opportunity, and so the normal approach wouldn't prioritize that. But when we put on this lens of inequity, obviously that's something very important. With AI, our foundation just recently put out a challenge to ask for ideas about using an AI to reduce inequity. And we reached out and got 1,300 proposals, and half of those came from Africa. And my next visit back to the continent, which will be in October in Senegal, we'll have a chance to celebrate the winners of that contest that look very, very promising. And so we can accelerate progress in these key areas. A good example of that is some of the things I got to see yesterday. I was with Dr. Basedi Ofalabi, and she's a professor at the University of Lagos, and she's working on the challenge of anemia in pregnant women. And anemia causes many, many problems. It makes a woman very fatigued, but it also dramatically raises the risk of hemorrhage, prematurity, and actually reduces the brain development for the child. It's very important, even during pregnancy, to have enough iron so that process can get off to a big start. Now, this is an example of a condition that hasn't gotten enough attention from the medical community, but there are some new, even low-cost ideas for it. In the past, anemia was treated by daily vitamins, but that simply doesn't work in moderate anemia or severe anemia. And so the approach that she's piloting is using intravenous administration, where just for one time, for about 15 minutes, sometime in the second trimester, you give this infusion, and what we're seeing is dramatic results. And of course, the anemia is more challenging in some states than others. So these tests and seeing the great impact is not just being done here, also in River State, in Kwara, and in Kano. And so we think that this intervention is low cost enough, and we can train enough healthcare workers that we can get that out very broadly to almost all the women in the country. Another area that's very important is agriculture, and that's why I met with the partners we've been funding, including ITA yesterday. The idea of using biofertilizers so you don't have to buy quite as much fertilizer, but you get the big crop productivity is very, very exciting. The goal here in agriculture is very clear. Africa, including Nigeria, has great land, and there's absolutely no reason that it shouldn't be a net exporter instead of a net importer. And we see the problem that causes, now that with the turmoil in Europe with the Ukraine war, that's driven food prices up to the detriment of Africa, rather than that coming out as an opportunity for greater exports and job creation. And so innovation doesn't just exist in digital and health. By making better seeds, using cell phones to get weather information out, to get advice to farmers about what's going on, magic seeds plus digital innovation will let us increase agricultural productivity. And that feeds back to nutrition, and that feeds back to health. And that, of course, are those enabling investments along with education that make the youthful generation the incredible asset here. I had a chance on Monday to meet with the newly elected president and encourage him that as resources are being allocated to keep these challenges of inequity in mind. We really do need to drive access to the key building blocks. For example, in health, with the limited budgets, right now there's only $10 spent per person. And yet, even if you just looked at sub-Saharan Africa, that's over $30. Now, even at that level, you can do a good job running a primary healthcare system. You can get vaccines out to all the children and make sure they get nutritious food. But, we're not there today, and a lot of finance and organization with that as a priority and good execution will